Now part two. Yeah, the video size was exceeded and the video stopped a little sooner than I intended, and so here we are. But it was perfect. It happened right on time, so I could wait, attend to a few things, and here we are again. Only now it's different. The multiple me. I'm very glad to be here. Did you see it? See how quick that is? You can do it too. The first step is to recognize, well, is that the first step or is that in the middle? Where to begin? Begin with this present moment. Always, always this present moment. And the asking, and the trusting, and the listening, and the being aware. Because everything is an answer to your question when you view it with love. Even if someone says, here's a counterpoint, and I'm totally disagreeing with what you're saying, you will hear it with love, and you will hear the clues and the keys and the information that is missing. And then you'll say, oh, thank you for reminding me. And then it grows and expands, and then as you talk and as you say, they look and they say, oh, happy I could help. Because everyone is helping, even if they don't seem to be. But they're helping from a way of love. What to say? So I mentioned the violent person the other day. I've met some people who are habitually violent, and what I've noticed is people approach them and they look at them like, and it pisses them off. So they're like, well, fuck that dude, and they're going to hit him in the face. But if you look at them like, hey, then they're different. They say, oh, hello, friend, and then all is good. And you see that so often it is that way. Now, I'm not saying it's always that way, and of course there's sometimes, people, trends continue, and they're carrying forward, and they're learning, and they're asking, and they're wondering. And it's true of everyone. Well, we don't want that, so drop it. And I know that regardless of what happens, we will help, because everywhere I go, there I am, but really we don't want that. I thought of a thing. We don't need to think about it, so put it back, so drop it. We drop the past or the future. Oh, all fears lies, drop it. And doing the process in sequence matters, and adjust the sequence. Because sometimes you'll learn one thing over here, and then you'll learn one thing over there, and then you'll learn one thing over here. And you might think that those are three different things, but actually they're the same thing in a sequence. And it's understanding the sequence, you'll know it by how you feel. And that's the please help part, is that you call out for help, you jump up, and you do anything you can think of. And then when you do, you'll notice, oh, I did those three things in sequence. And it worked. And so then you remember, and you trust that you always remember, and you remember by forgetting. Because you forget all about it, and then you'll always remember. Because if you try to remember it, you'll forget it. But if you forget it, then you'll always remember. And isn't that interesting? The blending of opposites, and that is love. So love is not an emotion. Love is a way of being. And you are. But when you know that you are, it changes things. Because it's infinite. You can expand and expand again. And the more you give, the more you have. And the more you take, the more you don't have. Because taking is a form of giving? Maybe. But it's an imbalanced giving in a sense, or so we think, or so we say. But do I see it yet? Is there any such thing as an imbalance? In truth? Oh, but there seems to be. And we can only go by what seems to, right? Maybe. Or maybe not. Let's let it fall away and we say, well, our expectations become a reality, so what if I have no expectations? Then what does reality become? Oh, it becomes different. That's what it becomes. And then we look again and we say, oh, it's different. Yeah, it's different because we were no longer expecting it would be this way. Therefore allowed it to be something new. We make all things new in the present moment, and by way of love and recognition thereof, and recognition of that in our fellows, and in all the animals, and all the trees, and all the grasses, and all the stones too, and all the rocks, and all the automobiles, and the engines, and the machinery. Love knows no bounds, Because the man who truly loves machines will put love into machines, and those machines will be more efficient than any machine that has ever been before, because love makes all things new. There is no division between the natural world and the unnatural world, because everything is the natural world. And there is no division between the physical world and the higher planes and higher ways of existence, because really, as we see, it is all interconnected. And the butterfly flies past, and we care about him. And with compassion we ask him, rise up so you do not get hit. Rise up and fly safely across the traffic. And it does. And we do it. And as we do, we bring up the Merkaba, and we see, oh, that place is dark. Rise up. And we see that it happens there too. And it is interwoven, interconnected. And compassion for a butterfly teaches us one of the most profound techniques that we've ever seen. I know we went off track just then. And the angel was just looking at me like, and she went like this, she went like, what? You didn't wait. It's not a straight line, remember, it's a curve. And then she went like this on the book, and she just looked at me, she was like, keep going. And then I look, and now she's looking around, and she's just like, I don't know. But we put it back, and we drop it. And now it's this present moment. Never too late, just keep going. And getting ahead of it matters, because there was a thing we would have said that maybe we will still say, but now that we're on track gives it a chance to be said. Whereas when I was saying what I said about the butterfly and the Merkaba, it was too soon, it was too deliberate. It was something I thought of before that I wanted to say, and in that moment I thought about it, and then I started saying it, and I didn't get ahead of it, I didn't drop it. All for the greater good, and every moment is the greatest lesson, and so we learn our lesson, and we move forward. And by demonstration we see, oh, I didn't quite do it right, and did you feel the difference? You did, right? Because that part of the video was different than this part of the video, because I was a different person then, the multiple me. And no excuses, because it's always me, and we never say, oh, that was someone different, and that isn't me, because, oh, that was me, because it's the multiple me. It's the many versions of me. There's no separations, there's no divisions, and yet we get to choose. Oh, we don't like it. Oh, we picked up something, and we drop it, and I put it back, and we drop the past, drop the future. Oh. You're going to make it through yet again. Oh, but we didn't quite, you see. Always drop it, no excuses. And it helps to breathe. And every breath travels around the world. And every breath informs all of humanity. When you breathe from a place of caring, when you breathe from a place of loving. Because there's different kinds of breath. Some breaths are a taking and some breaths are a giving. Some say it's both a give and a take, but I think it's different than that. There are some breaths that are entirely give. Even as you draw in, you're giving out. But you never give up. Just keep going. If you didn't quite get it right, do it differently. Make a change. Sometimes I'm walking along and I don't like how I feel, so I cross the other side of the street. Sometimes I'm walking along and I stop and I go back in the direction I just went. I find the golden path in each moment. And the golden path exists in our thinking, exists in our feelings, and exists in the physical world, because there's no separation between these things. That is what is meant by thoughts create, is that this world is the world, and yet there are so many, and all the many worlds combine. And they always are, whether you know it or not, but when you know it. I thought of a thing as I was saying that, and we didn't mean to, so put it back, and we didn't mean to, so drop it. No excuses. Isn't about that. Ooh. Then we carry on, carry forward. Because are you insane? Are you a genius? Is there a difference? Does it matter? And if it matters, who said so? Sometimes I do a thing, and I hear a voice from below that says, he cheated! I say, says who? Says them. That isn't the creator speaking, it's a being, it's a creature maybe. Some creature who thinks that things work one way, well maybe they don't. And so often it is when we give love openly with no expectation of return, when we let go entirely of any expectation of what will be, because it never needs be that way again, and we create from that balance point with pure giving for the good of all, without any expectation of return. and we jump up quick, and we are free of any fear, and they say, "He cheated." Is that cheating? Does that sound like cheating to you? Because there is only one rule, remember. Actually, there's probably more than one, but it's all kind of contained within one, which is be. And I think there's other rules too. But there's no cheating. It doesn't work that way. Oh no, it's not the way. And those who set the rules a certain way, I think they were lying. I don't think that was ever true. And oh, what a bombshell that is. Unpack that one for a moment, or maybe just leave it alone. Because you don't have to look, and you don't have to listen. And that's a thing. Oh, I know. And it makes such a difference, too. Because that thing that is keeping your attention that says, here's how it is, what if you were to just say, nothing at all. I just cheated. Was that cheating? I simply picked a different moment, jumped to a different timeline, changed the course of the rest of human history. And you do it too, every moment of every day, when you decide to change. Because remember, time is not a straight line. It goes backward and forward at the same time. And you are an eternal being having a human experience. And there are times where something happens 8 seconds from now and you don't like it, so you make a change now, and you've just changed the course of everything. You may have saved your own life. You may have saved someone else's life. And you've given a gift that is given to give again, which is this moment. And it happens always in the present, because there is no 8 seconds from now, and you know that. And yet. So then one wonders, did you make a change 8 seconds from now, which affected 8 seconds before? And now is always now. Do we see it yet? Or we keep looking? Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Make it hot. Oh yeah, we did. Ooh. What do you suppose sneezes are all about, huh? Because it's all of us, isn't it? When we sneeze, it's from head to toe. Whew, and the eyes water. Oh, as I put it back and I drop it. I want to keep talking. I want to keep telling the things that I've found. The different things, man. Different things. And how to say it, how to be. Is I leave it alone as I drop it? Because the past. Oh, I know. And we just changed the future. How do you like that? It's pretty easy, wasn't it? And you can do it too. And do it now. There's still fear left. Oh yes. But we don't need it. No. We don't need it. Because so often those who are yelling at invisible enemies in the streets, and oh yes, I've done that. It's the fear, you see. Because we don't see it yet. If we're looking at it in fear, we're seeing a twisted image of what actually is. Now, it doesn't mean that we get all buddy-buddy with the thing that we were yelling at. Oh, of course not. Because it's awful. We don't like it. But it's different than what we think. And there's an easier way, which is simply just drop it and jump. And you find your power again in the present moment. Because if you're yelling at them in the streets, it's because you are experiencing the past as the future now. But then when you drop the past and you drop the future and you jump, call out for help. And many beings are there to help. And they don't notice it isn't happening anymore. That we were only ever yelling at ourselves. Were we yelling at something else too? Probably. But it isn't what we think it is, and it's different than that too. And if you don't want it, ask the angels to take it away. And then notice that if it doesn't go, you called it back. You called it back to learn something. Maybe you called it back to learn how to never call it again. Sometimes that is the lesson. We're not here to say the rightness or wrongness of anyone's choices as I drop it. It's about taking. Because you see, when it seems like someone's taking from us, that's not really the case. It's that we took from someone and we give it back. That was just by demonstration, but we don't mean to demonstrate that way. I didn't mean to, and I just drop it. With no excuses. Always give it over the shoulder, over the shoulder. Always over the shoulders, at a curve. From this hand up here, any of those hands will do. Or your physical hands too sometimes. You give it over your shoulder, and then you're giving it back. See? You're giving it back. Because you give it back. So if you try giving it forward, it'll either bounce back or it'll be received differently. Oh, we don't mean to. So give it back, and we give it back. But we never ask them to give it back, because that's not how it works. Because it's infinite, and the open hand receives. Because anything that someone took from you wasn't something you needed. And so you give it back. And then when you give it back, you realize the only reason you felt that awful feeling of, oh no, someone took from me, was because it wasn't given freely through the proper channels. And because you noticed that you took something from them. You may not have even noticed that you did it. But the noticing that you did, and noticing that it's never too late, do it now. You give it back, and you'll see that they're so happy you did. Because when you send it through the proper channels, you've done a service for them in a sense. You purified it, and then you gave it through the proper channels, which purified it yet again, transmuted it and changed it in mysterious ways that I know nothing about. And then they find it, and they find it often behind them, and then they look around and they find it, and they go, oh, well, thank you. You say, yes, you're most welcome. But also realize that you're most welcome to just give and give again. How many thoughts can you have? How many feelings can you have? That's how much you have to give. And isn't it infinite? I mean, we know that one day we will no longer be in the world, but then we'll be in the world again. And isn't it infinite? Hasn't it always been? So why do we get so bent out of shape that someone has something that we used to have? Just think a new thought, feel a new feeling, and there you've got it again. And then give it again, because when you give it again, your open hand receives, and then you find that you are full and you are complete, and you are you in this moment. Because so often when we're holding on to something, it's putting us in the past or the future. Then when we give it back, we become present. And it's so interesting how that happens. Let's give it back. I'm doing a video. A lot of other things are always happening, always happening, always happening. Because as we think we're doing one thing, we're actually doing 157,000 things. And it really is no exaggeration. Because you are in a divine being. And it's everyone, everywhere. And I'm no exception. But it's different when you know that you are. And I certainly am not aware of 176,000, or whichever number I just said, because it's an estimate. And besides, it isn't even like that. All I meant was a lot, because it's a lot. And we're doing it, and we're doing it now. Always, always, and now. And just be... And all of humanity sees you all the time. Usually, mostly, kind of. But it's different. And when you're at the high point, they definitely see you. Oh, yes. But don't be afraid, because all fear is a lie. We drop it. They're there to help, and they are your friends. Because there is no them. There's only us. It's only we. And that's you. And that's me. And that's everyone. Because everyone is everyone in truth. And when I refer to the multiple me, what I'm referring to is all of humanity that has ever been, is, or will be. And probably other races than what we consider to be human as well. And it's infinite. And do I see it yet? Because maybe it's different than that too. It's definitely different than that. And how to become comfortable with uncertainty. Now that's the first step. I knew I'd find it eventually. And I found it by letting go, because it's a curve and not a straight line. The first step, comfort in discomfort. The blending of opposites. Being present in uncertainty, because I have no idea what I'm going to say until I say it. I have no idea what I'm going to do before I do it. But I know that I set the tone, and that my tone be loving, always, is my choice. And every moment is that choice. And right there, in that moment, I was doing something that was a little less than loving. And I would like, of course, to give it back and be as loving as I can be, and to just be. And then the eggs that are sent. Oh yes, light technology. Very interesting things to talk about. And I will, but I don't know when I will, and that's okay. I don't even know if I will, and that's okay. I don't even know if we're going to make it through the night, and that's okay. But it isn't, because we will. Of course we will. Keep running! Don't stop! But also realize you're always safe, and regardless of what you choose, you are eternal. Ah, does it drop it? So of course that isn't it. Does it drop it? Ooh, it's all fear's a lie, you see. Tripwires. And the pits that we fall in sometimes, but so often now we just skirt the edges. Because you'll start to notice after a while, one foot will feel some ground start to crumble, and that's when you stop, and you put it back, and drop it, drop the past, drop the future, jump. And then we make it through without ever falling in the hole at all. Because after you've fallen enough of these holes, and we've fallen in a lot of them. Sometimes they're full of mud, sometimes they're full of spikes. Sometimes they're just empty and they just fall forever. But remember, you can fly, so don't worry. Never worry, because all worry is a form of fear, and all fear is lies, you drop it. And if you're seeing something in fear, you're not seeing it correctly. That is always true. Always. Always. Because it is. Because love is the truth, you see, and it has no opposite. Some say that fear is the opposite of love, but it isn't. Fear is a twisting of what is. Because fear distorts. Then when you clear the fear, it snaps back to what it's always been. Because it was never the fear thing at all. Because all fear is a lie, which means it doesn't exist. The love is the truth, which means it does exist. Therefore, what actually is exists in love. And when you view it in fear, you're simply twisting your image of it. It's funhouse mirrors. It's distorting what is. Of course, it doesn't become all elongated and monstrous looking. That's not actually what it becomes, because it isn't. But we are who we say we are. So be very careful. Traps abound. No excuses. Just jump up again. And just be. Almost. Because you learn to feel, have I said it yet? Does that clear it? Do we know? And you'll know by how you feel, and in this moment. And so we tune in and we just start talking. And be willing to change and become someone different. Because maybe it's a different you that knows what to say. Let me put it back. How do I help? You see, it's too... But remember, when we stall, then we fall into the past, and we don't like it. We don't like it, so we keep going, and we just keep going. And there's a rhythm to it, and there's a pacing to it. And you'll find it. It's easy. It's easier than it seems to be. And once the fear clears, you'll see it in truth. And in truth, it's so much easier. But really, when you see it, do you see it yet? Because it's infinite. So becoming comfortable with uncertainty is definitely a key. But never to be comfortable, always in a state of discomfort. Somehow it's both. So often it's both. Because people think, it's this or it's that. Not anymore. Never really was. Two sides of the same coin, some have said, but in the sense it's actually the same side of the same coin viewed from different perspectives. Maybe like a coin and then an upside down coin? A pyramid and an inverted pyramid? The X? The point of creation? Much more to say on that in due course, in due time. And anyone who has questions, just ask. You can ask in the comments, ask in your mind, and I'll probably talk about it at some point. Maybe. But I don't know. And that's okay. It helps to be fast. Remember, not running from, we're running towards. It's about jumping timelines. It's about becoming a different you, a different me, a different everyone. Because it's everyone. And you are helping whether you know it or not. And the more loving you are, the more help you're providing. And do we see it yet? In each present moment, on each level of our being. Because if you are loving in 9 out of 10 areas, why aren't you loving in 10 out of 10 areas? No excuses. Keep going. But it's never about the rightness or wrongness of anyone's choices. And if you choose to only be loving in 9 out of 10 areas, that is your choice. And your reality will be expressed as such, and your experience will be experienced as such. And it's everyone everywhere, no exceptions. And am I 100% loving? Is that what we think? But maybe we are all 100% loving, whether we know it or not. But it's different when we know that we are. And that matters. Let's put it back. And so we just keep talking, and eventually we'll say it. We'll say the thing that is. And it isn't about remembering what it is that I wanted to say. It's about tuning in to the right now of what is to say, which is, I love everyone. Do I? Do I, though? And to the extent that I do, I realize the truth. And it is that way. That if you want to be your true self in full manifestation, then do so. And do it now, with no excuses. And it's like, oh, well, I don't know about that guy, though. I don't know about that guy. I don't know about that. So really, you don't know about that? Isn't it everyone? Because if it's everyone, it's you too. And if it isn't him, how can it be you? But if it's you, then of course it's him too. So love, and love now, and give it back. Always on a curve, never a straight line. Unless you want to go on a straight line. Because sometimes a straight line is a curve. Oh yeah. And do we see it yet? Yeah. And it's different than that too. I think that says it. Much more in plenty, because it's infinite. And what are we going to say next? I guess we'll find out. Maybe. Maybe. Maybe.